I'll introduce myself for new people. I'm Cena. I'm the Managing Director of the Minnesota Renewable Energy Society. And I developed this program in 2010 with a volunteer committee of installers, local Minnesota manufacturers, and our board members. And we did this program this time around for Southeast Minnesota through a CERTS grant. The Clean Energy Resource Teams gave us a grant to bring this program down here to Southeast Minnesota. And we were also supported by Velux, who is a manufacturer of that hot water panel there. They did a lot of our literature printing for us and things like that for the money we couldn't get through this grant. So I am very thankful for those people to fund us. So when we developed the program in 2010, these were our original goals. We're a nonprofit, so our main mission is to educate people on solar. It's not sales, it's not things like that, but we found that if we developed a program like this that could create a lower price, create jobs for our installers, and just educate the public, that it would be a win-win for everybody. So these were our goals when we developed this bulk purchase program. And we did do this program, I don't have this in the slides, but we did do this program in the metro area with the City of Minneapolis grant in 2010-2011. We did 16 solar hot water systems. We did 1 solar air heat system, and we did 3 people wound up not going with thermal but went with PV, so I still count that as under my tally. And so this was our mission that we wrote up. We found that the Make Mine Solar bulk purchase program would help reduce logistical hurdles by just educating people, giving them the qualified installers, and giving them the nonprofit that could help them work through the process. So we are doing these workshops, and we developed a set price with the installers and with the manufacturers to give you guys the affirmation, that's not the right word, but the confidence that you were getting a price from each one of these installers and they wouldn't have to compete against each other and try to outbid each other. So we have a set price, and we also dealt with the manufacturer to get the equipment at a lower cost. So we're going to have to hit 16 systems for the solar hot water and 10 systems for the solar air heat to get the bulk price that I'm going to talk about. And we'll also have me. You have me as a resource for this program. Here's my pricing. So if we do 1 to 5 systems for solar hot water, it'll be $10,000 per system. And then all the way down to what we're hoping will be 16 systems purchased for $9,600, and this is for a 2-panel system. 2 of these, well, that's a smaller version, right, Tim? They're bigger than that, yeah. Okay, so 2 bigger panels than that, but 2 of those, which is good for a 4-person house.
Are those goals statewide, or are they region?
They are statewide. Through the grant, we're only allowed to have my staff time be in Southeast Minnesota, but our installers who are kind of metro area, they're working to promote the program there themselves. So it will be statewide, so it can be outside of the Southeast Minnesota territory, but I personally am just focusing on Southeast Minnesota. So, yep. And that's a quote from one of my former board members who helped develop this program. He is the owner of Innovative Power Systems. So that's kind of the theory and the mission behind a program like this, is it increases the value of the solar industry greatly just by getting them to do a lot of systems in a short amount of time instead of spreading it out. If we can compact it into a smaller amount of time, it helps. So the first step for the program is to get a virtual site assessment. This is the first time we're doing virtual site assessments. We decided to do them because we are trying to do such a broad geographic range in Southeast Minnesota or the entire state that we wanted to be able to know that the site was going to be good before we had a site assessor drive all the way out there. And this is pretty easy to do through satellite images, either through Google Maps or Bing Maps, or there's lots of other tools the assessors use. If any of you have went on our website and looked at it, there's lots of questions for you to fill out, and that really helps our assessor get an idea of how many people live in your house, how much hot water do you use, who's your utility, do you have propane, electricity, or natural gas, and all of those questions can help give you a rough estimate of how much energy your system will provide, a payback, whether you even have a south-facing roof, what your solar window would be for your thing, whether he recommends solar air heat or solar hot water. So once you get the go-ahead from the virtual site assessor to purchase the site assessment, then you would schedule with the site assessor. He'll drive down and do an on-site assessment of your house, and that's $100 for residential, $160 for commercial. I'm trying to keep the prices really low on these so we can get more people through the system and get the bulk purchase done by September 30th. So these are unusually low, and they're only for solar thermal. They won't assess your house for solar PV or solar electricity. So after you get your site assessment done, I will send you the list of installers. All 4 of them are here today, and I'm going to ask them to come up at the end of this just because we're videotaping it. So, and I'll introduce you guys then, if that's okay. So be prepared. So they're all here today. I work closely with them. We've had lots of committee meetings. They've donated a lot of time to us as a nonprofit to get the set prices done, to get workshops set up, to promote the workshops. So they're very valuable to me. So the next step after that will be to talk with your installer and look at your site assessment and figure out what your specific needs are for your house or what's going to suit your site best. So you'll have 2 choices, the solar hot water and the solar air heat, which Jim already went over. So our prices for the solar hot water, 2-panel system, and this includes the equipment, the permitting, the installation. It should include everything. Will be $9,600. After the federal tax credit, which Jim talked about a little bit, and I have some more slides on it, it'll be $6,700. And then the Austin, Owatonna, Rochester Public Utilities is at $15 per square foot of net aperture, and I already figured that out for you guys, so that would bring you down to $6,000 if you have one of those utilities. Rochester Utility has a little special clause though, and they only want to replace electric water heaters, and Kurt has looked into this a little bit, right Kurt? And they, you're not even listening. So the electric water heater can be replaced at the time of install too, or the natural gas water heater can be replaced with the electric water heater, and they'll accept that as well, right?
Yes, if there's an old heater that you'd like to replace, you get the rebate by installing electric.
Right. And there was another exception to that, right? Do you remember what it was?
Well, the solar thermal tanks that are part of the system have an electric element. So that could be your hot water tank.
Okay.
If you hook up the electric element.
So we're working on ways to make this happen for Rochester utility people, but you'll have to work with the installer a little bit to make sure that that one happens. But it's about a $1,700 rebate for 2 panels. If you got more panels, that rebate would go up, and they have a $1,200 cap, I think. So then you would sign the contract, and we would, we're going to make the bulk purchase in October. So we have our deadline of September 30th. These are our exceptions to the 9,600, sorry, to the 9,600. And we kind of do this to just protect our installers from like getting some kind of crazy install where they wind up losing money. So an interior pipe run, a more involved interior pipe run means that you have like a 3-story house and the hot water heater is much farther away from your south-facing roof. So it's possible if your mechanical room is very far away from your south-facing roof that you might have some extra costs on top of that 9,600 so they can run more pipe run. And there's some other technical things, but in general we have a set price for a average home. Oops. Okay, so the solar air heat is going to be $6,500 for 2 panels. For single family home, that should do about 30% of your heating load in the winter. And is that about right? You heard that? 25 to 30%?
25 is, you know, if you want to be really conservative, you say 15 to 20, but there's so many tenants that
Yeah.
probably.
I guess it depends on how big your house is too. So after the tax credits, $4,500. The rebates don't cover this, as far as I understand. Does that sound right? So the utility rebates aren't covering the solar air heat. You?
The air heat, the manufacturer has a calculator that lets you put numbers in, and that's where I got that 15-year payback. And that was actually based on less than 25%. It didn't do anything 20%, but it still got that kind of payback in the propane situation. I would suggest, and you'll have to talk to your installer, that if you're thinking about the air heat, that takes a little time with that calculator, because you can actually put in your existing energy bills amounts into that.
So,
check it out.
yeah, so that's the Rural Renewable Energy Alliance, and their website is rreal.org, I believe. But if you Google RREAL Minnesota, they're local, they're a nonprofit. And that calculator's right on their website.
Part of my confidence in the air heat comes from the fact that the real folks have one part of their business is to do work on low-income housing, and they've had to justify the economics of what they do in a far more detailed way to their funders, to that, and it came out pretty favorably that this was a favorable strategy to look at the air heat. So that's part of where my trust in doing the air heat comes from, is they've had some scrutiny at a level that is higher than I've given even the solar thermal for water heating technology.
Yep, they're working directly with the state of Minnesota housing people, and they've had to justify that it's worth the state of Minnesota's money to invest in these equipment, so I trust it too. So some other incentives are 100% exemption from property taxes, so you can't add the value of the system onto your property taxes. What would happen? And then 100% exemption from sales tax, so there's no tax on that number either. I'm having all kinds of troubles. So Jim kind of talked about the federal tax credit, but it's good through 2016. It's on automatic now. So it's good till 2016. Commercial systems, businesses can get a really good deal with the modified accelerated depreciation. And this can be complicated, so talk to your tax advisor. Those are the numbers. You can always get them from me or your installer to help you walk you through that. DesireUSA.org is a great place for all the incentives, the state incentives, utility incentives, and the federal incentives. So DesireUSA.org and it's super easy to use. So I recommend that. There are 2 financing options, one through the Neighborhood Energy Connection and one through the Center for Energy Environment, and they both run the Minnesota Energy Home Loan Program, which does cover solar under it, and it's a pretty low rate. So you will have to have the full amount of the system up front, and then you'll get a check later from utility if you get that, and then of course the tax credits will be roll out over 5 years. So you can use that tax credit for up to 5 years until you've used it all up. But you got to pay for everything ahead of time. So after you complete your project, your installer should give you an owner manual and some system training on things like maintenance And the installer will do your rebate forms for you, but not your tax credit work. You'll have to go to an accountant for that. And get training and maintenance. And that's it. So does anybody have any questions for me?
Are there projects in the queue that will be applied against the 16 systems?
The installers have not told me about any yet. Installers? No? Not yet. This is our first workshop.
No signed contracts yet.
No signed contracts.
We've had interest. How's that?
Laura was just saying, this is our first.
This is our first workshop, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, so we've got until September 30th, which I just realized I don't think was in there. So September 30th will be our deadline to get our contract signed, and then we'll make the bulk purchase after that. And then the installs will happen probably November, or all the way until next spring. So you'll have a window for installations. Any other questions? So we're going to, I'm going to introduce the installers. So all the installers can come up here. We're doing this mostly for the camera, but.
Make sure you get your hair combed.
So I guess, I'll go back to that screen. So we have, come up here, Kurt. We have Kurt Shellum, is Rochester Solar installer, and he works for Solar Connection here at this first table. We have Charlie and Donna Pickard, who own Aladdin Solar, and they're in the middle. Tim Pendergast works for Applied Energy Innovations, and they're at the end. And Jamie works for Innovative Power Systems, which is right there. So these are the installers, and I have all of their certifications on the installer sheet that I would send you after you got your site assessment, so you can look them over, and you can always call me and talk to me about it.